The mysterious signal. The small alien ship glided silently through the dark stretches of space, its sleek, silver hull cutting through the void. The crew, a mix of curious explorers from various star systems, had been traveling for what seemed like forever, scanning distant stars for anything worth investigating. The galaxy was vast, and their mission was simple: find the unknown, the unexplored, and the mysterious. But nothing could have prepared them for what they would soon discover. Commander Zorath, the leader of the expedition, sat in the command chair, his long fingers lightly tapping the console in front of him. His golden eyes scanned the star maps and data streams on the screen. Nothing unusual. The team had spent days navigating through an uncharted sector of the galaxy, but all their efforts had so far yielded nothing but dead space, nothing to break the monotony. The crew was growing restless, their patience running thin as they flew deeper into the unknown. That was until the signal appeared. At first, it was nothing more than a faint blip, a minor irregularity in the ship's sensor data. Zorath barely gave it a second thought. Signals like these often turned out to be nothing, just natural space phenomena, electromagnetic radiation from stars or distant planets. But something told him to take a closer look. Maybe it was his instincts, honed over years of space exploration, or perhaps it was the frustration of days of quiet travel that made him curious. Either way, he ordered the crew to investigate. "Open the signal feed, Rylos," Zorath said to his communications officer. Rylos, a young and enthusiastic alien with bright violet skin, quickly adjusted the controls. The data shifted on the screen, and the team stared at the blinking anomaly. It wasn't like anything they had ever encountered before. The signal wasn't random, and it wasn't the usual interference. It was structured, organized. It almost seemed as if someone, or something, was trying to communicate. "This is strange," Rylos murmured. "It's coming from the direction of Earth." The name hit the crew like a shockwave. Earth, the legendary, long-lost home of the humans. It had been thousands of years since humanity was thought to have vanished from the galaxy. Stories and myths about Earth were told in hushed tones across the stars, a planet once powerful, but now a distant memory. No one truly knew what had happened to the humans, or if they had even existed in the first place. The galaxy had moved on, leaving Earth behind, and most believed that nothing was left of the once great human civilization. "Earth," Zorath repeated, his voice low. "Are you sure?" Rylos nodded, his eyes wide with surprise. "Yes, Commander. The signal is coming from there." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Earth. The very name stirred up old legends, legends of a civilization that had once conquered the stars, only to disappear into the void, leaving behind nothing but ruins and mystery. To find a signal from Earth after so long, after so many believed the planet was gone, was something no one had ever expected. The prospect of discovering what happened to humanity was both thrilling and terrifying. Zorath leaned forward in his chair, his fingers now pressing down firmly on the console. "Bring up the data from the signal. I want to know everything about it." Rylos worked quickly, tapping commands into the console. The information began to flow onto the screens, and the crew gathered around to study the results. The signal wasn't just a weak, sporadic pulse. It was clear, precise, and had a repeating pattern. It wasn't just a signal. It was a message. Is it possible?" murmured Xara, the ship's navigation officer. "Could humans have left something behind? Some kind of message?" Zorath remained silent, studying the data. The signal seemed to be more than just a distress call. It was purposeful, directed. Whoever, or whatever, had sent it knew exactly what they were doing. The question now was why. Why after so many years? Why now? "Prepare to shift course," Zorath finally said, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. "We're going to Earth." The crew worked quickly, adjusting the ship's trajectory to follow the signal. As they moved closer, the tension on board began to rise. The excitement was palpable, but so was the uncertainty. What would they find on Earth? Was it truly a message from the humans, or something else entirely? And if it was the humans, what could they have left behind? What secrets had they buried on their planet? As the alien ship neared the coordinates, Zorath couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the edge of something monumental, something ancient, and yet something new. The signal had been waiting for them, patiently, across the vastness of space and time. But now it was growing stronger, clearer. It was as if Earth itself was calling them. What are we about to uncover? Zorath thought to himself, his mind filled with questions. Could Earth still be inhabited? Could humanity have survived somehow, against all odds? Or had they left behind a powerful secret, something that could change the balance of the galaxy forever? The ship entered Earth's orbit, the planet's blue and green surface now visible in the distance. Zorath looked out the window, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea what they were about to discover. All he knew was that Earth, once thought to be lost and forgotten, was about to reveal a mystery that had been buried for 500,000 years. And whatever it was going to change everything. Earth's forgotten legacy. The alien ship hung in Earth's orbit, its sleek, metal hull reflecting the faint glow of the distant sun. Below, the planet seemed peaceful, an orb of blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds. But for the crew of Zorath's ship, this was no ordinary sight. They were looking at Earth, a world once home to a mighty civilization that had vanished months ago, leaving only myths and stories behind. Now, they were about to uncover the truth. The signal had led them here, but it had not revealed what was waiting beneath. The message was only a clue, a breadcrumb leading them deeper into a mystery that would soon begin to unfold. The crew could feel the weight of history pressing down on them, their collective curiosity piqued by the unknown. "Prepare to land," Zorath commanded, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. "We need to find the source of this signal." The ship descended toward Earth's surface, cutting through the thin atmosphere. As they approached, the scanners began to detect unusual readings. At first, the crew thought it was just interference, a common phenomenon in unexplored regions of space. But then the readings became more defined, too specific to be mere background noise. Rylos, the communications officer, stared at the screens. "Commander, I'm picking up faint energy signatures, coming from deep underground." Zorath's eyes narrowed. Underground. Earth had been abandoned for 500,000 years, and yet there was something hidden beneath the surface. "What kind of energy?" he asked. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." The signatures suggest advanced technology, far beyond anything we've encountered. Rylos responded, his voice tinged with awe. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The implications were staggering. If the humans had left behind technology of this magnitude, it meant they had been far more advanced than anyone had ever realized. "Land us as close as possible," Zorath ordered. "We need to investigate." The ship descended further, finally touching down in a remote region, miles away from any known cities or landmarks. The area appeared uninhabited, covered in dense forests and rolling hills. But beneath the surface, something ancient and powerful was waiting to be discovered. The team disembarked, their boots crunching against the dry, cracked earth. The air smelled faintly of decay, a reminder of how long it had been since anyone had walked here. The landscape was eerily quiet, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. They followed the readings, moving toward the location of the energy signatures. The forest grew thicker the deeper they went, the trees towering above them like silent sentinels. Soon, they came upon a clearing, and in the center of it, a massive structure loomed, its surface covered in moss and vines, but unmistakably artificial. "What is this?" Sara, the navigation officer, whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It doesn't look like anything we've ever seen." The structure was enormous, built into the side of a mountain, its metallic surface gleaming faintly even in the dim light. It seemed to be some sort of entrance, a massive door sealed shut by ancient technology. The crew stood before it, unsure of what to do next. It was clear that the humans had left something here, something significant, but what? "We need to get inside," Zoreth said, his voice resolute. "Find out what's hidden here." Rylos stepped forward, scanning the door with his equipment. After a few moments, he looked up, his face pale. "Commander, this isn't just a door. It's a security system, a very advanced one. It's not just designed to keep things in, it's designed to keep others out." Zoreth's mind raced. The door was sealed for a reason. Whatever lay inside, it was important. The question now was, what was so valuable that the humans had gone to such lengths to protect it? "We'll need to override the security," Zoreth said. "Get to work, Rylos." The communications officer nodded and began to work, his fingers flying across the control panel as he hacked into the system. The crew waited in silence, tension thick in the air. Every moment felt like an eternity. They knew that whatever was behind that door could change everything. What if humanity had left behind something more powerful than just a war fleet? What if they had hidden a secret that could shift the balance of the galaxy? Finally, after what seemed like hours, the system let out a low hum. The massive door creaked open, revealing a dark, cavernous space beyond. The crew exchanged looks of anticipation. Zoreth stepped forward, his hand hovering over his weapon, ready for anything. The inside was nothing like they had expected. Instead of the usual storage rooms or abandoned technologies, they found rows upon rows of sleek, dormant machines, massive warships, gleaming with polished metal, lined up as though they had been waiting for their masters to return. The ships were unlike anything the crew had ever seen. They were not just weapons of war. They were pieces of a lost civilization, each one an artifact of humanity's incredible ingenuity. "This is impossible," Shara muttered, her voice filled with awe. "These ships, they're not just advanced. They're beautiful." Zoreth stood in awe, his eyes scanning the fleet. He could feel the power radiating from the ships, even in their dormant state. It was clear that humanity had not just been fighting wars. They had been preparing for something. The question was, what? "We need to dig deeper," Zoreth said, his voice barely a whisper. "This is only the beginning." As they moved deeper into the cavern, the crew found something even more unsettling. Hidden archives, filled with data about Earth's past, about the humans, and about the war that had shaped their civilization. But there was one file that stood out, one file that seemed to contain the answer to everything. The file was labeled, "The Last Hope." Zoreth's heart skipped a beat. The last hope. What could that mean? Had the humans known that their end was near? Had they prepared for the worst, leaving behind not just a war fleet, but a plan for survival? The crew gathered around, eager to uncover the secrets hidden within the archives. The answers were just within reach, but as they began to access the data, one thing became clear. They were not the first to find Earth's forgotten legacy. And soon, they would realize that the past was not as dead as they had thought. Something had been waiting here for 500,000 years, and it was about to awaken. The awakening of Earth's hidden army. The air inside the cavern seemed to thrum with an unnatural energy as Zoreth and his crew dug deeper into the archives. The walls echoed with the low hum of ancient machinery, still alive, still waiting for the right signal to awaken. The crew had barely scratched the surface, but the magnitude of what they had uncovered was already too much to grasp. Rylos, who had been combing through the data, suddenly froze. His fingers hovered over the console, and his face turned pale. "Commander, you need to see this," he whispered, his voice shaky. Zoreth quickly moved to his side, his eyes narrowing at the screen. What he saw was a blueprint, an intricate design for a fleet of ships, far more advanced than anything in the galaxy. But that wasn't what made his breath catch in his throat. It was the words at the top of the page. "Operation Dawn." "What is this?" Sarah asked, her curiosity piqued. Rylos scrolled through the data, revealing a detailed plan for a series of coordinated strikes. Operation Dawn was not just a defense strategy. It was a preemptive strike, a war plan of unimaginable scope and complexity. And it was clear, Earth's fleet had been designed not for mere survival, but to dominate. Zoreth's mind raced. The humans had left behind not just ships and weapons, they had left a doctrine of warfare that could reshape the entire galaxy. But the question was, who had they been preparing for? What enemy had they feared so much that they had constructed this vast, powerful fleet, waiting for the right moment to strike? "We need to get to the source of this," Zoreth said, his voice tight with urgency. "There's more here than just ships. We're dealing with something much bigger." The crew moved deeper into the complex, following the data trail. As they ventured farther, the passageways became narrower, the air heavier. The temperature dropped. It was as though the structure itself was waking up, reacting to their presence. They came to a massive chamber, its walls lined with glowing consoles and towering machines, each one pulsing with energy. At the center of the room was a colossal cylindrical structure, standing taller than any of the ships they had seen so far. The structure was covered in intricate patterns, symbols that neither Zoreth nor his crew could comprehend. It was like the final piece of a puzzle, the key to unlocking whatever lay hidden within Earth's mysterious past. Sarah stepped forward, her hand brushing the surface of the cylinder. "It's cold, but it feels alive," she murmured. Her fingers tingled as she made contact, and for a moment, it felt as though the structure responded. Just a faint pulse, almost imperceptible. Rylos scanned the structure with his equipment, his brow furrowed. "There's something inside that's been dormant for millennia. The energy readings are off the charts." Zoreth stepped forward, his mind racing. Whatever this structure was, it was the heart of Operation Dawn. And whatever was inside it, it was more than just a weapon. It was a force waiting to be unleashed. He raised his hand to the control panel beside the cylinder. Without hesitation, he initiated the sequence. The air around them crackled as the system hummed to life. Slowly, the cylindrical structure began to open, its panels sliding back to reveal something hidden within. A figure stood inside. It was humanoid in shape, but far more imposing. Its body was encased in an armored exoskeleton, glowing with an eerie blue light. The figure's eyes, or what appeared to be eyes, were obscured by a helmet, but the energy radiating from it was unmistakable. This was no ordinary soldier. This was a being of immense power, a living weapon, the product of humanity's darkest hours. The crew stared in shock. Was this the legacy of Earth's final war? Zoreth took a step back, his eyes widening. "Is it alive?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Before anyone could respond, the figure stirred. It moved with a fluidity that belied its mechanical appearance, its body unfolding with ease, as if it had been waiting for this moment. The lights in the chamber flickered as the figure's internal systems activated, and for the first time in millennia, it was awake. Zoreth's heart raced. This is it. This is humanity's final weapon. The figure slowly turned its head toward the crew. Though its face was obscured, the intensity of its gaze was unmistakable. It was as though it was assessing them, weighing their worth in an instant. Then it spoke. "Who are you?" Its voice was deep, mechanical, but there was a faint edge of something more, something human. "Where is the commander?" Zoreth stepped forward, trying to steady his breath. "We are the Zoreth crew. We discovered this place following a signal. What is your purpose?" The figure's posture shifted, a faint pulse of light rippling across its exoskeleton. "I am the Vanguard. I was created for one purpose: to lead Earth's last stand, to command the fleet and ensure humanity's survival." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Vanguard. Was this a soldier, a leader, or something more? The figure's eyes flashed with recognition, as if it had suddenly understood something that had eluded it. The fleet, it must awaken. Without warning, The Vanguard moved toward the far wall of the chamber, placing its hand on a console. A series of low beeps echoed in the room as the ship's dormant systems began to activate. Slowly, the massive doors around them opened, revealing rows of warships, dozens, hundreds of them, hidden deep within the mountain, all powered up and ready for battle. The crew stood frozen. The Vanguard had triggered the awakening of Earth's hidden war fleet, and the power that radiated from the machines was undeniable. "We have to get out of here," Sarah said, her voice laced with fear. "This is too much. We can't control all of this." Zorath didn't respond immediately. He was focused, his mind racing with the implications of what was unfolding before him. The humans had prepared for an unimaginable war, a war that, according to the Vanguard, had never come. But now it seemed that war was inevitable. The ship's massive engines roared to life as the fleet began to stir. Zorath's heart beat faster with every second. Whatever had been set in motion was bigger than he could have ever imagined. "We've woken up the sleeping giants," Zorath whispered, staring at the awakened fleet. "And now we're going to see what happens when the last remnants of humanity's might are unleashed." The countdown to a new conflict had begun. The surge of Earth's might. As the Vanguard activated the war fleet, the energy in the air shifted. The room was no longer just a cold, forgotten cavern. It had become a battlefield in waiting. Zorath and his crew stood in awe, watching the massive warships stir to life, their once dormant engines now humming with power. These ships weren't just machines. They were an extension of humanity's ambition, a testament to a species that had vanished long ago, but had left behind an indelible mark on the universe. The Vanguard turned to face Zorath, its glowing eyes still scanning the crew with an unsettling intensity. "The fleet is awakening. Its mission is clear. Prepare for the final call," it said, its voice heavy with authority. Zorath's mind raced as he tried to process the information. The Vanguard had spoken with certainty, as if it knew exactly what was coming, and yet something about it felt wrong. The humans had vanished centuries ago, but their legacy had been left behind in the form of a fleet that was now poised to dominate again. Sarah stepped forward, her voice cautious but curious. "What is the final call? What exactly is it that this fleet is supposed to do?" The Vanguard's eyes flickered, and for a moment, it seemed as though it was struggling to remember. Its voice was slow and deliberate as it spoke again. The fleet was designed for one purpose: to return to the stars and secure humanity's place in the galaxy. The war never came, but the mission did not change. Zorath felt a chill run down his spine. The fleet wasn't just a defensive force, it was an army of conquest. The humans had intended to take back their place in the cosmos, to strike at whoever threatened their existence. But where had they gone? Why had the war never happened? "Commander," Rylos interjected, his voice shaky. "We need to understand more about this fleet. What is the Vanguard referring to? Who were the enemies they were preparing for?" The Vanguard seemed to sense the urgency in Rylos's words. It moved with surprising speed, its exoskeleton clanking as it approached a nearby console. The screens flickered, revealing star maps, battle plans, and ancient data streams. Zorath could see the scale of humanity's preparations. Thousands of ships, soldiers, and weapons, all designed for one purpose: interstellar warfare. But the maps weren't just showing Earth's position. They were showing a much larger threat, a galactic scale of war that had once been on the horizon. Suddenly, the room went dark. The flickering lights from the consoles were the only source of illumination now, casting long shadows that stretched across the cavern's walls. A deep rumbling sound filled the air, followed by a series of high-pitched beeps. The systems were reacting to something. Zorath's heart skipped a beat. "What's happening?" he demanded, stepping toward the Vanguard. The figure's voice rang out again, this time with a new urgency. "The signals, they've begun. The enemy is returning." The words sent a ripple of fear through the crew. The last time the fleet had been activated, humanity had feared an enemy, but they had vanished before the war could begin. Now, as the vanguard spoke, it was clear. The enemy hadn't been destroyed, only delayed. And now, they were coming. A new set of coordinates appeared on the screen, and Zoreth's eyes widened as he realized that the enemy was not far. The vanguard, sensing his disbelief, explained further. The enemy is the Shorni, a coalition of alien species. They destroyed Earth's most powerful colony centuries ago, long before the war could begin. Their forces, once scattered, are now regrouping. They are aware of the fleet's activation, and they will come to take it back. The realization hit Zoreth hard. These were the same enemies that humanity had been preparing for. But now, 500,000 years later, it seemed that the fight was far from over. The fleet had been dormant, hidden in the heart of Earth, waiting for a war that had never come, until now. "Are we ready?" Zoreth asked, his voice hoarse. The vanguard's response was chilling in its calmness. "We are the last remnants of humanity's strength. We are the shield and the sword. If we are to survive, the fleet must take its place in the galaxy once more." The crew exchanged tense glances. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless alien species, many of which they had never encountered. But now, they had no choice but to confront the threat head-on. The fleet was humanity's legacy, and it was up to them to ensure that it was used not just as a weapon, but as a beacon of humanity's will to survive and thrive, no matter the odds. "Then we have no time to waste," Zoreth declared, turning to his crew. "We must take control of the fleet. Prepare for launch. We're going to show the galaxy that humanity may have vanished, but we're far from forgotten." The crew hurried to the control panels, their hands shaking with a mixture of fear and excitement. As they initiated the launch sequence, the ground beneath them vibrated with the power of the fleet's engines coming online. They could feel the weight of the moment. The galaxy was about to change. But deep in the back of Zoreth's mind, one question lingered. How could they fight a war that had been forgotten for so long? They had only just begun to understand the immense power of the fleet, and now they had to face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. The vanguard's voice broke through his thoughts. "Prepare yourselves. The Shorni will stop at nothing to destroy us. But with the fleet awakened, we will ensure that humanity's legacy survives." With that, the final countdown began. The war for humanity's place in the stars was about to begin, and there was no turning back. The universe would never be the same again. The first strike. The hum of the war fleet's engines filled the control room, and the once-forgotten ships of Earth began to stir, their metallic hulls glowing in the dark expanse of the ancient facility. Zoreth stood with his crew, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. The control screens flickered with data, launch sequences, power readings, and communications from the fleet itself. But despite the technological marvel before them, there was an unmistakable tension in the air. The Shorni were coming, and Earth's fleet, once dormant for centuries, was now humanity's last hope. "Are we ready?" Zoreth asked, his voice steady, but beneath it lay a quiet anxiety. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the galaxy itself. Rylos, his trusted lieutenant, glanced up from his console. "We've activated the fleet, Commander. They're ready. But I still don't understand. Why now? Why have the Shorni returned after so long?" Zara, ever the optimist, leaned forward with a sharp glance at the star maps that stretched across the room's holographic screens. Maybe the Shorni were just waiting for the right moment. Earth's war fleet was hidden for centuries. They wouldn't have known when or where it would reactivate. Zoreth didn't speak immediately, his mind racing. The enemy species, the Shorni, were ruthless, merciless in their conquest of weaker civilizations. And though the humans of Earth had vanished, their enemies had never truly disappeared. This moment had been centuries in the making, and they were standing at the precipice of a war that could decide the fate of the galaxy. A loud, sharp beep broke the silence. The vanguard's voice echoed through the room, low and foreboding. The Shorny fleet is approaching. We have mere hours before they arrive in orbit. Zoreth's pulse quickened. Hours? That wasn't nearly enough time to prepare, not for a battle of this magnitude. He turned to face his crew. We don't have the luxury of time. We've got to strike first. The Vanguard flickered on a nearby screen, its image towering over the crew. The fleet was designed with speed and surprise in mind. Humanity's greatest strength was never their numbers, but their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their enemies. If you attack quickly, you can gain the upper hand. Zoreth's brow furrowed. But how do we outsmart a species we've never faced before? We have no intel on their tactics, no understanding of their fleet. The Vanguard seemed to process the question for a moment before responding. You have me. I will guide you through it. Trust in humanity's legacy, your instincts, your courage, and your resourcefulness. The fleet's eye has all the battle data from Earth's greatest wars. We will use that to your advantage. Zoreth's grip tightened on the control panel in front of him. All right, we'll move fast, hit hard, and catch them off guard. Let's make sure they understand that humanity is still a force to be reckoned with. As the command was given, the room erupted into frantic activity. The crew scrambled to prepare the fleet for its first strike against the Shorny, who were already closing in on Earth's orbit. The warships, once dormant, now roared to life as they powered up their engines and readied their weapons. The walls shook with the vibrations of the fleet's activation. Sarah moved swiftly to a tactical station. I'm reading multiple Shorny ships entering the system. They're not yet in firing range, but they're close. Zoreth's heart raced as the countdown clock ticked down. He glanced at Rylos, who was monitoring the fleet's status. How long until we're ready to launch? Less than 5 minutes, Rylos replied, his voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. The seconds seemed to stretch into eternity. Zoreth stood, staring at the view screen as it displayed the approaching Shorny fleet, a massive, imposing armada of sleek, menacing warships. The Shorny had clearly come prepared for a fight, but so had humanity. The warships of Earth, hidden beneath layers of dust and time, were about to show the galaxy just what they were capable of. Zara's voice broke through Zoreth's thoughts. Commander, the Shorny are activating their weapon systems. They're preparing to fire. Zoreth's mind snapped into focus. He didn't hesitate. Launch. All ships, engage the enemy. In an instant, the Earth fleet surged forward, propelled by the might of their advanced engines. They shot through space, leaving behind the safety of Earth's atmosphere and closing in on the Shorny armada. The Vanguard's voice echoed again, guiding the fleet's movements with precision. You must strike fast. We have only one chance at this. Zoreth gripped the controls as the first volley of fire from the Shorny warships streaked past them, narrowly missing their hulls. The fleet's shields flared to life, absorbing the impact with barely a tremor. They were being tested, but the humans had anticipated such an attack. Their ships were designed not just to fight but to survive. Suddenly, Earth's fleet split into smaller, more agile groups, darting around the larger Shorny vessels, targeting weak points with precision strikes. Explosions rocked the Shorny armada as Earth's ships unleashed their weapons in a coordinated barrage. The Vanguard's voice crackled through the comms, its calm tone a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding. You are doing well, but stay focused. The enemy is more dangerous than they appear. Zoreth's pulse quickened as a Shorny flagship locked onto their fleet and fired a massive energy blast. It was a direct hit. For a moment, everything went silent, and the fleet's shield readings flashed in red. Status, Zoreth barked. We've taken a hit, Rylos shouted, his hands flying over the controls. But we're still intact. Shields holding. Return fire now. The fleet responded, launching salvo after salvo, turning the tide of battle. The Shorny were no longer the unstoppable force they had seemed. The humans had a secret weapon of their own, the element of surprise. They had made their move, and now The galaxy was witnessing the first strike of a war that would echo through the stars for generations. But even as victory seemed within reach, Zorath knew that this was just the beginning. The Shorni would regroup, they would adapt. The galaxy was about to witness the return of humanity, not as a forgotten relic, but as a living, breathing force ready to claim its place in the stars once more. And with the vanguard guiding them, Earth's war fleet would ensure that the legacy of humanity's strength would not be easily forgotten. You said, the tide turns. The battle raged on, a chaotic dance of light and shadow, as Earth's fleet and the Shorni forces clashed in the vast emptiness of space. Zorath stood at the heart of the control room, his eyes fixed on the holographic projections of the battlefield. Every pulse of energy, every missile fired, every strike of weaponry was a testament to humanity's ingenuity. Despite being caught off guard, the human fleet fought with a ferocity that surprised even Zorath, a seasoned war commander who had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "Commander, we're getting a signal from the vanguard," Rylos called out, his voice laced with urgency. The lights of the control room flickered, the hum of the ship's engines echoing around them. The vanguard's holographic figure materialized in front of them, its eerie glow casting long shadows on the walls. The Shorni are regrouping. They're calling in reinforcements. The vanguard's voice was calm, but Zorath could sense the gravity behind the words. You must act quickly if you want to maintain your advantage. Zorath's pulse quickened. The Shorni had been relentless, but they were not invincible. They were now aware of the human fleet's power, and it was clear they would not let their first defeat be the end of the battle. The next phase would be crucial. How long do we have before their reinforcements arrive? Zorath asked, his voice steady, despite the tension that coiled within him. 30 minutes, Commander, the vanguard replied. But the element of surprise is in your favor. The Shorni think they have the upper hand. Use that. Zorath turned to Rylos. Prepare the fleet for a second strike. We hit them hard. We hit them fast. No hesitation. The crew worked swiftly, executing their orders with military precision. Zorath couldn't help but feel a flicker of pride. Despite being buried beneath centuries of dust, the ships of Earth were alive with purpose. Humanity's war fleet was not a relic. It was a weapon, designed to strike with the ferocity of its creators. But as the fleet readied itself for the second phase of the battle, Zorath knew they couldn't rely solely on brute force. The Shorni were too clever, too dangerous. Their reinforcements would only make things more difficult, and Zorath had learned the hard way that a direct assault might not be enough to win the war. Earth's strategy had always been about using tactics, cunning, and a deep understanding of their enemies' weaknesses. The Shorni ships are closing in, Sara said, her voice steady, but her eyes narrowed with determination. She had been tracking their movements, searching for any signs of weakness. They've activated cloaking systems. They're preparing to ambush us. Zorath's heart skipped a beat. The Shorni had perfected the art of stealth in their own wars. But Earth's fleet had something the Shorni could never replicate. The vanguard, the artificial intelligence that had guided them for centuries. Zorath trusted it implicitly. Vanguard, I need a full scan of the Shorni fleet. No surprises this time. The vanguard's figure flickered, its digital eyes glowing with intensity. Scanning now, Commander. Moments passed in tense silence. Zorath felt the weight of every second, each one bringing them closer to either victory or destruction. Finally, the vanguard spoke. I've located them. They're hiding in a sector near the asteroid belt, using the natural debris as cover. But I've pinpointed their exact coordinates. The moment you make the first move, I'll disable their cloaking devices. Zorath smiled grimly. Good. Prepare the fleet for an ambush of our own. With a series of commands, the human fleet split into two smaller groups. One would feint an attack on the Shorni reinforcements, drawing them out from their hidden position. The other, under Zorath's direct command, would strike at the heart of the Shorni fleet, taking advantage of their confusion. The Vanguard's guidance would be their key to victory, ensuring that no Shorni ship could escape the coming storm. As the two fleets moved into position, the tension in the control room was palpable. Zorath could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, the anticipation of battle overwhelming. The ships glided silently through the inky blackness of space, the stars overhead a constant reminder of just how much was at stake. "Ready, Commander," Rylos said, his voice tense. Zorath's gaze swept over the fleet, his thoughts racing. "On my mark. Now." With the command, Earth's fleet sprang into action, launching a volley of missiles at the Shorni fleet's supposed position. The projectiles arced through the blackness, lighting up the darkness with streaks of fiery destruction. But just as the missiles neared their target, the Shorni ships flickered into view, their cloaking devices failing in an instant, as the Vanguard scan had predicted. The Shorni had no time to react. Before they could activate their own weapons, the human ships had already closed the distance, firing at pinpoint accuracy. The Shorni flagship, a monstrous behemoth of steel and destruction, was the first to fall. Its shields were no match for the concentrated firepower of Earth's fleet. With a devastating explosion, the flagship disintegrated into a cloud of molten debris. Zara's voice echoed across the room. "Direct hit. The Shorni flagship is down. We've broken their formation." But Zorath knew the battle wasn't over. The Shorni were resilient, and their reinforcements had yet to arrive. "Don't get cocky. Keep the pressure on them. We finish this now." The two human fleets continued to push forward, relentless in their assault. With each strike, the Shorni fleet faltered, their forces scattered and disorganized. But even as their ships fell, Zorath knew that the real test had yet to come. The Shorni were dangerous, and they would fight until their last ship was gone. The battle for the galaxy had just begun, and humanity's war fleet was ready to show the stars that Earth was not a forgotten legend. It was a force that would never be silenced. The final reckoning. As the final remnants of the Shorni fleet disintegrated in the cold void of space, the battle seemed to wind down. But Zorath's instincts told him the worst was still to come. The Vanguard's precise tactics had ensured humanity's victory, but Zorath knew this was more than just a fight for survival. This was about sending a message across the stars that Earth was not a forgotten world. It was a force that had been biding its time, waiting for the moment to strike back. The echoes of the battle still reverberated through the empty corridors of the command ship. Zorath stood at the central console, staring out into space as the remnants of the Shorni fleet drifted in pieces. It wasn't just the fleet that had been shattered. The Shorni's sense of invincibility had been crushed as well. For centuries, they had believed no one could match their might. The humans, with their ingenuity and relentless determination, had proven them wrong. "We've done it," Rylos said, his voice filled with awe as he looked at the scattered wreckage of the Shorni warships. "They're finished. Earth's fleet is victorious." But Zorath didn't share his sentiment. His gaze remained fixed on the darkness beyond, where new threats lurked, waiting for their chance. The Shorni might have been defeated, but the galaxy was still a dangerous place, and Earth had only just re-emerged from the shadows. "Don't get complacent," Zorath replied, his voice low and steady. "This victory may have shattered the Shorni, but there are other powers out there. This is just the beginning." Zara, ever watchful, approached him with a datapad in her hand. "Commander, there's something you need to see," she said, her voice grave. Zorath turned, his brow furrowing as he took the pad from her. The screen flickered to life, showing a message from an unknown source. The language was alien, but the tone was unmistakable. A warning. The transmission was brief, but its meaning was clear. "Your victory against the Shorni will not go unchallenged." The message read, "Prepare yourselves. The darkness of the universe is watching, and it will strike when you least expect it." Zorath felt a chill run down his spine. The words lingered in the air, their meaning settling heavily on his mind. This was no idle threat. Someone, or something, had been watching Earth's every move, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The Shorni had been just one part of a much larger, more ominous picture. "We need to prepare for what's coming," Zorith said, his voice grim. "Rylos Skara, gather the fleet commanders. We need to discuss our next move." Within moments, the room was filled with the senior officers of Earth's fleet. The mood was a mix of triumph and trepidation, the aftertaste of victory clouded by the mysterious threat looming on the horizon. Zorith's gaze swept over his team, his mind racing with the possibilities of what this new danger could mean for humanity. This message: "It's clear that Earth is no longer alone in the galaxy," Zorith began. "We've sent a message to the Shorni, and they've learned to fear us. But the true challenge lies ahead. We can't afford to relax, not even for a moment." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "We'll need to strengthen our defenses, expand our reach, and, most importantly, prepare our people. The galaxy is vast, and there are forces out there that we've never even imagined. But Earth has always thrived on challenges. It's in our blood." Sarah stepped forward, her expression determined. "Commander, I agree. We've seen what humanity is capable of, and it's time to take that fight beyond our own borders. We should begin establishing alliances, building bridges with other civilizations that might see us as an ally rather than a threat." Rylos nodded. "And we need to scout out any potential dangers. Make sure we don't get blindsided again. We can't afford to be caught off guard." Zorith looked at the group, his mind racing with the possibilities of what lay ahead. The Shorni were defeated, but the universe was vast, and Earth was still a small player in the grand scheme of things. Yet there was a spark in him, something that burned with the same fire that had fueled humanity for centuries. The battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. "We will rebuild. We will grow stronger. We will not be silenced by anyone. Not the Shorni, not any other threat, and certainly not the shadows that lurk out there." With that, Zorith turned to face the stars once again. The darkness beyond was not an enemy. It was an opportunity, a challenge. And humanity, for all its history of triumph and failure, had always risen to meet those challenges head-on. The unknown forces that watched Earth would soon learn that humanity's story was far from over. As Zorith's eyes scanned the stars, the hum of the fleet filled the air, a sound of hope, of defiance, and of a new beginning. Humanity had awoken, and its legacy, its war fleet, its spirit, its unyielding will to survive, was just beginning to leave its mark on the universe. The battle for the galaxy was far from over. It was only the beginning.